So I went to this meeting one time. It was kind of a network club or network meeting. I didn't know what to expect. I'd never been before. Someone drug me along. Wasn't even in my city. It was somewhere else. And I said, okay, yeah, sure, I'll go. And there were insurance agents there, and bankers, and real estate agent, and appraiser, just business people in general. And a gentleman stood up and he said what I thought was pretty profound. He said, I'm a businessman. I can run any business. And I thought, well, dude, you can't run an appraisal office. I mean, you can't do what I do, not unless you're certified. You can't do that. And then I paused for a minute. I thought, well, I know a guy. He doesn't even have a real estate license. And he owns a real estate brokerage firm. He hires a principal broker to run it for him. And then I thought, gosh, I know a guy. He's an appraiser, and he owns 2 insurance agencies. He's never had an insurance license. And then finally I thought, gosh, now I know a guy who owns multiple convenient care centers. And he's not a doctor or a PA or a nurse practitioner. He's a business person. And so it really got me to think. And one thing about us as appraisers, we're really busy. We're busy working in our business. And maybe to some degree we do need to work in our business, but I think there's something equally important as working in our business, and I think that is working on our business. Come on back and we're going to have a conversation, and I've got a really special guest to give us some great answers. Hi, this is Bryan Reynolds. You're listening to the Appraisal Update Podcast, brought to you as always by the great folks over at Appraiser eLearning. You need some education? Check us out at appraiserelearning.com. We've got new courses coming down the pike like crazy. So we've got self-paced, we've got virtual. Hal and I are even going to be starting up the road show again. So if you're in a particular city that would like for us to come visit, reach out to Ben or Kim or Hal or Jim or me or Doug or Diana or somebody over at Appraiser eLearning and let us know that you would like for us to visit your city or state, and maybe we'll put that on the calendar. These things are going to start happening again, I think, in December. So be on the lookout for Hal and I to be on the road. The road show is coming back and to a city near you. So we're really excited about that. But I'm excited today because I have a great guest on, Mr. Paul Ryll. He's a certified appraiser, and he is truly a businessman. Is that fair to say, Paul?
That's fair. That is fair to say, for sure. I've had my hands in a couple different industries, and I'm just really excited to kind of get back fully appraising and working, as you were talking about, on the appraisal company and moving forward, in this business. So
yeah. So tell my listeners a little bit about you. You're a certified residential appraiser, but you own some other businesses too. So give us a little snapshot into the history of Mr. Paul Ryll.
I don't think we have enough time for that, to be honest with you, but I can give you a quick snapshot of the past maybe couple years. 12 years ago, I became a certified residential and worked on, in a one-man shop. I was doing my own stuff, and then decided I wanted to get a little bit more education. So I left and went to Washington, D.C., and I was appraising in Virginia at the time when I went up there, and I got a master's in real estate and infrastructure from Johns Hopkins, which really kind of brought the entrepreneur kind of side of things out of me. So it was taught by a bunch of practitioners, and I learned a bunch when I was there. And I came back and started kind of the trainee model of training trainees to work for me at the appraisal company,
Mm-hmm.
and got them all trained up. And now I have 3 certifieds from the ground up. And as they were kind of going through training, I started realizing that the time that I needed on the business was less and less, because everything was kind of starting to fit into place. So I guess I just had, way too much time on my hands. I decided to jump back in the restaurant industry. I've been in and out of the restaurant industry since I was 15 years old. I started off as a busboy at Outback Steakhouse, and got into a franchise. I bought a franchise in Clemson, South Carolina. And then after I realized that I wanted a little bit more creative control, I started my own concepts. And now I have 2 concepts, one in downtown Greenville, South Carolina, and another one up by Furman University, it's still in Greenville, but in North Greenville area.
Well, stop right there. Give a shout out. What's the name of your restaurants? Let my listeners know where they can come have a bite.
So my concepts are called Parsley and Mint, Mediterranean Eatery. So the two restaurants are a little bit different. One up by Furman University is a fast casual. So it's kind of like a Chipotle style. You walk through, get some nice, fresh and healthy Mediterranean food. And then the one downtown is more of a cocktail lounge. So we do craft cocktails. We do tapas and small plates and stuff like that. And then the restaurant in Clemson, South Carolina is Tipsy Taco. It's a tacos and tequila joint. So, we got 100 tequilas on the wall. It's a good place to go watch a game, grab some tacos, meet some friends. It's a fun time. So, yes, sir.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, you need to have, if you don't already, you need to have a smoke box in your cocktail lounge. So
yes,
we'll talk about that off air, right? So I have a little smoke box where you smoke a cocktail, and it's very cool.
We do have that, actually.
Oh, you do have one. Okay, great.
It's not a smoke box. It's actually kind of a lid that you put on with some wood chips. We have cherry oak, pecan, smoking, and you can go anywhere from an añejo tequila to a nice bourbon and smoke it, and it's fantastic. So we do actually,
that's awesome. Try if you haven't already, try a smoked Bloody Mary. Those are pretty good too. So try one of those. Mostly old fashioned for me when we're talking about the smoked cocktails, but very cool. So I'm just curious, how many employees do you have on the restaurant side?
I'd say 120 at this point.
Wow. Good.
The one in Clemson's a large operation, and being that it's mostly college students, then they're working maybe 1-2 days a week. So because of that, the employee number grows, especially when school's in session. But during the summer, it kind of shrinks. But total, I think we have about 120 employees, sir.
Great. So that gives you a lot of insight in how to, really how to run a mid-sized business, right? I mean, you've got payroll you've got to meet, you've got management, you've got, obviously income, but you've got the expenses that you have to deal with, and employee turnover, and everything you need to do to run a business. The 941s you got to deal with, everything you've got to do to run a business. So let's bring that over to your appraisal business. You said that originally you started out, it was an army of one. It was just you.
Sure.
And now you said you've trained, had some trainees, and did I hear you say you have 3 certified down?
Yes, sir. I have myself and then 3 other certifieds. I have 3 more trainees that I just picked up, 2 report writers and data entry report writers, just kind of like, kind of admin side of things. And then I have a director of operations now. We got big enough to where I have somebody who kind of runs everything for me. And she's a combo, I guess you would say, executive assistant / but she's more of a director of operations than anything.
Very cool. So 3 certified appraisers, 3 trainees.
Yes, sir.
And then how many report writers did you say you had?
2.
2 report writers.
Yes, sir.
And then from an admin standpoint, what do you have there?
Just the one. So it's just Allison's doing all the director of operation type of stuff. And the 5 new ones, the 3 trainees and the 2 report writers, we're actually putting through a program right now to get everybody trained kind of all at the same pace, so that we can, by the time everybody's ready to go, we can pull the trigger on getting more volume and everything else kind of all at once. So, and then, throw them out there and hopefully they swim.
Yeah. So let's talk about that for a little bit, because a lot of my listeners right now, they're in that stage, including me. I'm not insulated from that. I think all appraisers, for the most part, unless they're in a real, specialty type service like DOT work or something like that, they've probably experienced a slowdown, right?
Yes,
I mean,
sir.
the rates are double what they were last year. And I got news for everybody. The rates are still really good. I mean, I had a conversation with somebody the other day. He said, well, when I bought my first house, it's 12%. And I said, look, when I got in mortgage banking, it was 19%. So I'm with you. 7%, 6.5%, that's still really a good rate when we look at it from a historical standpoint. But we all get a little greedy. We all get a little sensitive to that, hey, we want 3% or 2.5% again. So talk about that a little bit. Have you guys experienced a slowdown, number one? And number two, what are you doing to try and overcome that hurdle? Because we know it's going to come back, right? I mean, the business is going to come back, and it's probably going to come back with a fury. We're probably going to be overwhelmed again when that tidal wave hits. So what are you guys doing right now, kind of during the lull?
So what I did, I actually put in place a couple different things. For my 3 certifieds, I kind of made them the appointment on all the lending side of stuff. So anything that's coming through that's lending is going directly to them. And then I started kind of, because I have the experience, because I have the credentials, I started marketing myself to the non-lending work. I've been doing a lot of attorney work, a lot of expert witness work, portfolio work. I just finished 71 properties in Charleston, South Carolina for one portfolio, and really kept myself busy by doing the non-lender work, because that's actually turned into the type of stuff I love doing now, instead of doing just straight lender work. But with that, we still have enough volume to give to the 3 gentlemen who are the certified residentials, and they're still fine. So also what I'm doing is I decided that this is a great time to bring on people to train, because I now have the time to train them, right? When it's busy, when it's absolutely nuts, how much time and effort can you really give to somebody in this very, very important business to train? And you really can't, because you're going a million miles an hour. You have to meet this deadline. You got to get this revision in. You got to talk to this lender. You got to do this. You don't have time for your training. So I'm actually taking this downtime to use it to my advantage, and have trainees and have people ready in the future when it starts to go up again. I now have the army ready to go forward.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So, we talk. You're involved with the NAA, and you know that we've really been passionate about trainees, and we created the membership level for trainees. We have the trainee day. I think you spoke at that event in Las Vegas recently, and so we're all about trainees, but maybe we've got some appraisers that's been out there a while, and they're listening to this broadcast, and they're like, well, I'm not a trainee. I've got 20 years of experience, but it's just them. And so what would you say to them, maybe a gentle nudge, if you will, for them to open their eyes, and more importantly, open their mind and think about bringing on a helper? You mentioned a while ago a report writer. So that's not even a trainee. So
Correct.
It's not as though you have to bring on a trainee. You certainly could, and we'd love for you to do. But a report writer, I mean, I assume that helps you do more volume and take on more work as a consequence.
Yes, sir. So how I look at things, the most important thing in my business is my time, right? And no matter what, it's not the software, it's not saving costs on rent. It's not my most important thing that I have is my time. So if I can find ways to make my time more efficient, then I end up making more. You can just call it fee per hour, right? So if I have people that are doing kind of the grunt work for less money than I would do for it, then that ends up becoming more fee per hour. So I guess I got 2 things to say to somebody with a kind of a gentle nudge. One of the things that we don't seem to talk about much, and maybe enough, and this is why I always bring it up when I speak, is that you got to think about the end game. You might need to spend a little time to train somebody, but at the end game, it can be profitable. It will be profitable for your business if you do it right. and it'll be profitable for you and for your family. If you have people that are doing work with you, and I say with, not for, I don't think that technically we need to have employees, we work with each other, then it could be better for the bottom line of your business. And it actually could lead to just straight passive income, right? That's the dream. Having passive income hitting my bank while I'm down at Sloppy Joe's in Key West, that's exactly what I'm kind of going for. So if I can train some people to be working and who are continuing with the company after their trainee, then it ends up being beneficial for me and my bottom line. And the second thing I wanted, this one's a little harder kind of to suggest to people, but having trainees has made me a better appraiser because I'm learning things that I could be doing better from trainees. And even if it's conversations where trainees are asking me questions and I don't know the answer to, I'm going to go find out that answer. And guess what? Now I know it. Now I'm a little bit more of an expert. Now I can possibly do more with the expert witness stuff and whatever I decide to do. So it ends up making me a better appraiser, having more than one eyes on appraisals too. I have one guy, one of my certifieds, and I didn't realize this. I was doing my Charleston portfolio and I was having him look over them because when you're doing 71 appraisals that are very similar, it could get kind of daunting and this field should be in this, whatever. I didn't realize that Austin was so good at reviewing. He was catching just random kind of typo stuff that I was missing. So it's making me a better appraiser by allowing the trainees, allowing the people who work for me kind of look over my stuff as well. So those are the two things. One, you can make money off it no matter what. And two, it's making me a better appraiser.
It's interesting. I just looked while we were chatting here, and I wrote and it came up. So it's right here. It's hard to see on the screen, but I wrote an article many years ago, and it's called "A Dentist, a Surgeon, and a Head Chef." And the premise behind that article was, what is the highest and best use of your time? And, if you think about it, the knowledge and skill set you have now as a certified appraiser really puts you apart. Not to say you're better than anybody else, not to say I'm better than anybody else, but you mentioned a moment ago a report writer. Mm-hmm. Well, a report writer can do a lot of the data entry and take that burden off you and I, right?
Yes,
that
sir.
We could be doing something else. And since you're in the restaurant business, you'll appreciate the head chef one, right? So we were in Chicago, and I lived up there for a while. So we were in downtown Chicago. We were on Navy Pier, and I'm like, I'm just gonna get a really nice meal. So we went into this restaurant, and it was really a nice place, right? So we go in, and there were 3 hostesses up there, and they seated us, and we're sitting there. And before the waitress even got over, we had a water boy came up and gave us water. There was a wine steward that came up and gave us a wine list. And as all this was happening, I'm scoping out the restaurant. And I saw a busboy over there, and then this one person just amazed me, Paul. I don't know the official title. You might know. I call him a table setter, or The busboy would come do their things, and then this guy would come over, and he would whip out a tablecloth and have straight lines on it, and he would set the glasses and the silverware and the plates, and he was incredible. I never saw that man stop. He was go, 100 miles an hour. And then the waitress came out. Then a different person brought our food. I mean, there's an army of people.
Of course.
After dinner was over, we were leaving, and I went up to the hostess stand. And I said, "Can I see a manager?" She's like, "Oh yes. What was wrong?" I just need to see a manager, please. Do you have a manager on duty? Yes, we have 2. I said, "Oh, okay. Can I see one?" Yes. So the young lady ran off to get one, and the bar was right there, or the where they serve the food, or plated it and put it up top. And I looked back, and I saw all these table preppers. I saw table runners. I saw sous chefs. I saw people back there cooking. Here comes the manager. "Yes, sir. What's wrong? What can I do to make this right? What was your problem this evening?" I said, "I had no problem." I said, "I had an excellent meal." And I said, I just wanted to take a moment of my time, to take a moment of your time, to tell you what an amazing experience this has been. You saw a relief come over his face real quick because he's like, we never hear that. You know, and when they ask for me, it's normally bad stuff. You know, he said, so thank you for the kind words. And I said, hey, I got a question for you. He said, yeah, go. I said, you have a very well-oiled machine here. I see you have 3 hostesses up here. You've got waiters, you've got wine stewards, you got busboys, you got whatever that table setter guy over there. You need to give him a raise, by the way. And I said, I see sous chefs, I see runners, I see, chefs back there in the back. They said there's even another manager on duty. Not, yes, sir, there's 2 of us here tonight. So I just have one question for you. How many head chefs do you have? And he said, we have 1. We have 1 head chef. That's all we have, right? So especially the smaller appraisal offices, you are the head chef, right? Yep. So think about all the support you could have that would allow you to do more business and scale your business larger and larger and larger, right? Julie is a nurse practitioner. The last place she worked, I said, how many helpers do you have? She's like, I don't know. They have 1 doctor, 1 nurse practitioner, and 1 PA, and an army of helpers. Yep. And they see a lot of patients as a consequence, right? But if you're a sole practitioner, if you're doing, and there's something to be said about that. Some people like to just do it all on their own. I sleep at night. I don't have to worry about payroll. And I'm not knocking that. If that's what makes you comfortable, that's fine. But I truly believe there's 2 ways to help you be more productive and proficient or efficient. One is technology. Embrace technology and the tools that we have available. And number 2, bring on a team. Have more people. More people could do more product. There's no question. So I'm just curious what your recommendation would be. I had an elderly gentleman come up to me in Texas, and he said, hey, I've been ill for a little while. I'm just getting back in the business. I'm thinking about bringing a trainee on. And I said, sir, you asked me for my opinion, so I'm going to give it to you. I said, you don't need a trainee. And I said, I'm all about trainees. I mean, I'm 100% an advocate for trainees. I said, but you don't need a trainee yet. You need a helper. You need an admin person. You need somebody that can help you answer the phone and schedule your appointments and do your report writing and do your research, and then maybe bring on a trainee. So what's your thought along that vein? Would you recommend a trainee, or would you recommend a support person that maybe might ultimately become your trainee? If we have a listener right now that says, okay, I'm going to bring on a helper, what would be your recommendation to that listener right now?
My recommendation would be to write it all down. And one of the things that if you're considering, so there's 2 levels. If you're considering, and then if you've made a decision, if you're considering bringing somebody on, write it down and do the numbers. Do the numbers on what your volume is. Do the numbers on what you can kind of break it up in reports and how much time it takes you to do scheduling, how much time it takes you, and all the time it can be off your plate if you're paying somebody maybe an hourly to do this. And just write it down. And once you do that and you see, you're like, wait a minute, this is how much money I can literally be making. This is how much more volume I can do if I have somebody. At that point, then you're going to make the decision. So moving over to the decision making, I think that my suggestion is again, write it all down. Do exactly what you did before. Find out all the information that you want somebody else to do, and make sure you train them to do all that stuff. Don't just start with a little bit and then stop. One of the things I think that I've noticed with people who have come to me and asked me about the training and trainee stuff and bringing on support people is that they'll train them to do maybe 2 or 3 tasks and then stop and then continue. Oh, it's quicker for me to do this on my own. It's really not, because if you maybe take it monthly or you take it 6 months, it's not going to be quicker for you to do it on your own, because you're going to be doing it on your own for 6 months. Train that person to do something. So don't just stop once you, and then you feel a sense of accomplishment. Once you train somebody to do something, keep going, keep moving forward to make it to where you're using your time as efficiently as possible. And then they're using their time as efficiently as possible. And it ends up being profitable for your business.
A lot of appraisers I meet, And I used to be this guy, you know. I was married a long, long time ago, and you know, I just had the mentality that, oh, we need more money. I'll just work more, right? The business is there. And Paul, I was to the point where I was killing myself. Mm-hmm. I mean, when I lived in Chicago, at one time I worked 5 jobs, and I thought there's got to be a better way. And then I realized if I devote more time and just focus on appraising, that I didn't need 5 jobs. I could do 1 job and just do more and more and more of that job. But there are appraisers that are listening to me right now that work day and night, that work Saturdays, that work Sundays. I'll have appraisers in my classes many times, and I'll say, when's the last time you took a 1-week vacation? And the majority of them say, oh, I don't, you know. Now, some will say, hey, I took one last year. And I'll say, great. Did you take your laptop with you? Well, yeah, of course I have my laptop. Oh, so it was a working vacation, mm-hmm. right? And then I'll say, how many of you have had a 2-week vacation? When's the last time you took a 2-week? And almost always, sometimes there's an exception, but almost always, nobody in the room has ever had a 2-week vacation. Now, that's kind of sad. It's sad that we work so hard that we feel like that we can't take that break or take that weekend off or take that week or 2 weeks off without taking their computer. And so I consulted one firm where they had 4 appraisers and they were billing out over $1 million a year, but they had no money. And I said, well, something's broken here. And by the time we got done, we were like, did you know that each one of the principals could have a full week off every month? I mean, there's four of you. So just they didn't do it, but they certainly had the option where they could take a full week off every month. And so as I get a little older, I find that what, you know, I think your priorities and the things that are important to you change as you get a little older. You know, I always wanted a big house with some land and all that. And those things aren't quite as, you know, what's extremely important to me these days is time, because I can't get my time back, right? So I found one way that you can get more time is you can buy time. And so, so I can hire other people I'm buying my time back. I'm hiring other people to do other things so that I don't have to do it and I can do other things. So what do you say to a listener right now, or maybe somebody's watching, that is that appraiser that's working day and night, working mostly weekends? Hey, I get a lot of work done on the weekends because my phone's not ringing, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe they'll go home and have dinner with their family, but then go back to the office or they go in a bedroom and work. And they're working till 10, 11, 12 o'clock every night. What's your, give some words of wisdom to those appraisers? Because I know there's a bunch of them out there right now.
So Bryan, the people who are going to listen to this, who know me, know that I probably don't have any words of wisdom because I kind of am that appraiser right now. Okay. But however, and you're kind of hitting home with me right now because I just turned 40, and you know, doing the restaurants and doing everything is fun and it's great. It's a weird economy for restaurants, of course, but as I told you before the podcast, I was actually working as the executive chef. So I was working as the executive chef in one of the restaurants. I'd go home at night and then I'd do appraisal work, and I'm literally 7 days a week. And then, you know, I moved away from the restaurant and I started working on the appraisal business a little bit more. And now I'm still 7 days a week. So as of right now, unfortunately, I am that appraiser. However,
I need to pull you to the side after this podcast.
I'm telling you, my fiance is watching this right now. She's nodding her head and shaking it at the same time. So,
I got you, girl. I'm going to take care of you because I'm going to shake him up a little bit.
I'm telling you, it's nuts. But what I'm doing now, and I've realized this over the past couple months, and even you did it for anybody who doesn't know, there was a clubhouse last night in which you specifically spoke about stress. And I actually, when you were going through that clubhouse, I stopped working and went downstairs and started cooking dinner because I was like, you know what, I'm done. I want to do something that I enjoy. And I started cooking dinner. But anyway.
Good.
For the past couple months, I've actually kind of realized that it's time. It's time for me to take a step back. I've been working you can probably believe this. I've been working my ass off since I was 15 years old. Out in the military, in the everything that I've been doing. And so what I'm doing now with the program, with the trainees, and when I have my certifieds autonomous, is I am trying to get to the point where I am buying my time, just like what you're saying.
Yeah.
Whereas these people can run the business, I can pick and choose what I want to do. If I just want to stick with the expert witness testimony stuff, if I just want to do portfolios, if I just want to do stuff from my computer, where I can be on vacation and possibly for the rest of my life and move to Europe or do whatever, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get to that point. So in the immediate time frame, I don't have too much advice. Just the only advice that I have for anybody is recognize that you don't have all the time in the world. Recognize that this can take, and so with my trainees and report writers, and I'm actually working on training some other supervisors trainees too. So we have a group of, I think 16 total that we're doing at the same time. I do these little clips of added value. It's called added value at the end of every week. It's something that happened to me during the week. And one of the most recent one was how this business, because you are basically commission based, because you're as hard as you work, you make more money. It is so easy to just get swallowed up in working constantly and waking up and not sleeping, and it being 4 a.m. and you're waking up and being like, oh my God, I should have turned that in yesterday type deal. No more panicking. No more panicking. I can't do that anymore. And I am working steadily to move forward so I don't have to do this anymore. So
so you said maybe you don't have some wisdom, but I think it's there, and I think you have a plan, you have a roadmap to get you to where what I'm talking about, right? You recognize it, and you're like, hey, there's a way for me to put this thing on autopilot. And I'll tell you, for me, Paul, what has happened with building a team, and I've got great people. I mean, they're fantastic people. It kind of shows you. It kind of shows you just how unimportant you are because my office runs whether I'm here or not. And the ladies in the next room probably would tell you it runs better when I'm not here. You're not in the way, Bryan, And so it's, but that's what you want. You want to be able to go away. We went down to the Ole Miss UK game this past weekend. I've got to be in DC next week. After that, I don't know where I'm going, but I'm a busy guy too. I travel quite a bit, almost exclusively for work. But we take some little mini vacations, and it feels good to know that I can leave here and I've got good, competent, ethical people that is keeping my business in operation. You're not at your restaurant every day. So your restaurant is running whether you're there or not.
Correct.
And it's running efficiently whether you're there or not. And so your goal is to get your appraisal office to run very much like your restaurant does on autopilot, whether you're there or not. And so we as appraisers need to recognize, we have businesses, and we need to really think about it as a business and not just a service provider, and run our business like a business. And that's what, at the very beginning of this, I said it's very important to work on your business as opposed to just working in your business. You've got a director of operations, so that takes some heat off of you. I might need one of those.
Bryan, she was on maternity leave for the past 2 months. I about lost my mind because of stuff I had to do. I swear, she just came back on Monday. Thank God. So, but yeah, oh my Lord. That was a rough 2 months there.
Yeah. Well, Paul, thank you so much for being here. I mean, I've taken up enough of your time this time, but we're going to have you back. And I think we'll have you on a webinar. You gave a presentation out in Vegas. I sadly missed it, and I want to see it. So I think what we'll do is bring you on a webinar where we have a live audience and they can ask questions and interact with you during that time. And then we really can't talk too much about it, but you're doing a little something with Hal over at Appraiser eLearning, right? Something's in the works there. Yeah, so we're excited about that. Listen, if one of my viewers or listeners wants to reach out to you and get to know you a little bit better, Paul, what is a good way for someone to reach out and contact you?
You can contact me via email. My email is my first name, Paul.Ryll, Ryll, and then it's the full name of my company, Oscar Mike Appraisal Group. So that's Paul.Ryll at Oscar Mike Appraisal Group. Feel free to contact me anytime.
Thank you very much, Paul, for being here. It was a pleasure to have you on, and I look to bump into you again real soon.
Sounds good. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Appraisal Update Podcast, brought to you as always by Appraiser eLearning. For my guest, Mr. Paul Ryll, this is Bryan Reynolds, your host. Until next time, please be safe out there. Take a little mini break. I finally got my deer cam up and running, looking at some does. No big bucks yet, but got the corn out, got the cam going, and I tell you, just taking the four-wheeler back there, getting deep into the woods, it's peaceful. You know, it's kind of my happy place, and it's just very peaceful. And I'm like, gosh, I can't believe it's October and I've waited this long to get this stuff out and going. I'm going to be in the woods. I hope you find something you enjoy doing and you carve out that time to have a little bit of me time. There's nothing wrong with me time. Go out and grab yourself some me time. Until next time, happy appraising.
The Appraisal Update Podcast is brought to you by Appraiser eLearning.